Hi there, Izzy from Digital Goja Showrooms, and we're going to start a new segment, the top 25 questions asked about my Canon Rebel T6i. Now, I've scoured the blogospheres, Amazon's website, eBay's, digitalgoja.com's, customer service questions, even customer service phone calls of the top 25 questions that are asked on basic use of our Canon Rebel T6i. Now, notice how I said basic. This is like a 101 session. So if you are an advanced enthusiast or prosumer, this might not be for you, but you know what? Take a look at it anyway, because we might be able to answer some questions that you really didn't think about and are going to actually help you in some basic use of your new Canon Rebel T6i. And if this video is helpful to you, remember to click the like button underneath and subscribe to the channel for future sessions that are coming. Plus, if you have any questions or comments, make sure you leave them below so that we can get to them also. And without further ado, let's take a look at the Rebel T6i. What size memory card can you work with this camera? Well, they made it simple. It works with the standard SD XC cards, which eventually will make it all the way up to 2 terabytes. That sounds crazy. I, for example, like to work with the micro SD cards because it also allows me to work with my GoPro. This one happens to be a SanDisk, and it's the 10 class card, which is very important for these type of cameras. And you can work all the way up to the UHS 1 version, which allows you to work very well with high definition video. But that's the beauty of this camera. It'll allow you to work with all the newer cards that are coming out on the market. The speed is only rated up to the UHS 1. How do I set up my flash system with my new Rebel T6i? Very simple. I happen to have an Altura Photo APS-C 958X on here. Turn it on. Click on our menu. You want to move to the flash control setting. And now we're going to click on that. And of course, you have to scroll down to external flash function setting. This is the one that's going to allow you to control your external flash. So here you can toggle between TTL, manual, or multi-mode, and notice as soon as I do that, it automatically sets it on the flash. And of course, you also have your wireless capability. So let's say, for example, if I want to activate my wireless system, I can choose to, and as soon as I click on that, it switches the unit over to the mode. And you can also change your output, and you can also switch it from master to slave. So all the settings, and of course you could do this with a touchscreen. I am just old school, I'm used to doing it on the wheel, but you could do all your settings right here on the touchscreen and enable all your settings for your wonderful flash imaging. How do I set my ISO on my T6i? Well, they made it really simple. A lot of the new Rebel cameras have had this feature for a while. Instead of having to go crazy in the menu, you have your ISO button out here. So when you press on that, then you can, this also being a touchscreen, you can actually set it to the preferred ISO. Notice that this goes all the way up to 12,800 ISO. So honestly, I would set it to the average for this camera would be 1600 ISO if you're working in low light situations, or 200 ISO in a bright environment. And that way you'll have perfect images without any problems with noise. Now, I've read on some of the blogs that people are saying, well, should I go with the T6i or the T6s because I'm upgrading from a T4i or a T1i? Well, if you're starting off with a T1i, this is a perfect upgrade. But if you're already up at a T4i, a lot of consumers are suggesting and buying the T6s. They like the layout better. It has a little bit more robust grip. Notice how the system has changed over to this side, and you now have a different layout for your buttons back here. Plus you also have the LCD readout on top. This is basically like a 70D light. So you have to make the decision, but you can see that they're very similar, but yet for the photographer that already has a more current camera, if you're going to upgrade, honestly, without jumping into the larger EOS cameras, I would definitely look at the T6s also. Here's a very popular question. Can I use my live view for video while depressing the shutter button to activate the video? No, unfortunately not. Notice how I'm on live view now, and when I depress the shutter, it takes an image. But when I press the red button, which is a record button, then you notice that it activates the recording feature. But you do have the capability of shooting a snapshot in between while you're doing your recording, and it'll still continue to record. But this is still the main button that you have to activate to do your full HD video. What lenses can I work with my new Rebel T6i? Well, guess what? Anything that was manufactured after 1987 from Canon will work on here perfectly. So whether you have the newer STM technology for stepping motor system for us videographers that want silent video, or if you have some really nice USM lenses from days gone by, but they still work perfectly on there, all the new L series lenses, any lens that was manufactured after 1987 will function perfectly on your Rebel T6i, and also look to some other manufacturers that are on the market. They will have lenses that will work perfectly with this camera. So that means whether you jump on board with some Tokinas, some Tamrons, some Sigmas, some of those brands that are out there that have the capability of the chip to work with this camera should function. But to be on the safe side, stick with the Canon lenses that are guaranteed to work perfectly with this model. But if you want to be on the safe side, of course, you can stick with the Canon EF and EFS lenses, and all of them will work perfectly with this camera. How much video can I do with my memory card? So do I just shoot video until it fills up? No, because it will have a limit. Notice when I activate the video mode, it shows you right on the screen that you have 29 minutes and 59 seconds. So you can do it in clips and eventually put it all together with your editing software. But it only records at 29-minute intervals. But of course, it'll allow you to fill up your precious memory card with as much high-definition video as you choose. Can I change the screen color of my Rebel T6i? Well, guess what? You actually can. Hit your menu button and you're going to move over to the third little wrench, and the first one there is screen color. Click on it and notice how you can change between standard, a white screen to make the numerals and icons stand out better. You also have the darkened one for bright light situation. You have this one which is like a bluish tint, and then for low light or nighttime you have the reddish one, so it doesn't interfere with your imaging. So all in all, you have 5 different screen colors to choose from. How do we set the white balance on a T6i? They made it really simple. They still maintain the controls that are true to most of the Rebel and EOS's. Hit your white balance toggle. Right now it's set to the default auto white balance. But when you want to be more accurate, you can choose your daylight balance, shade, cloudy day, tungsten lighting, fluorescent lighting, strobe, and of course your custom white balance, which allows you to do a custom white balance setting and save it to your menu to get the correct exposure and color depending on the lighting situation. How do I activate my display when it turns off? A lot of us have the camera set to default where it tries to save battery and the display goes off. The rule of thumb has always been press the shutter button, but some of us don't like to do that because you run the gamut of taking an image. Well, guess what? You also have a button up in the top that says display. You press that down and you can control your display, turning it off, turning it on, and pressing it at will. This allows you to choose when your display is on or off. How do I adjust my different drive modes on my T6i? Again, they made it simple. Here is your toggle, and you have your single shooting, continuous, and silent single, which is great if you're working in an environment where you do not have the capability of muting the camera somehow. You also have silent continuous shooting. That's a new feature where, notice now, when I do set it to that, very quiet. So you're going to be able to capture high-speed shooting even in that mode. You have your self-timer, which allows you to work with a wireless remote, your 2-second quick self-timer, and then you have your continuous self-timer where you can actually set the amount of exposures that you wanted to shoot in case you want to do some different poses for your self-timer selfie shots. How can I tell the condition of my battery on my Rebel T6i? Well, it's actually right in the menu setting. Notice that we have to toggle over to the third little wrench and scroll down to battery info. And when you click on that, lo and behold, there it is. It's telling you that how much is remaining of your battery and the performance. So it's telling you that right now this battery is relatively new. It's the LPE17 and it's right now at maximum capacity. The more you recharge it and the more you use it, you'll start noticing that the little icon where it says maximum will start changing, and eventually it'll tell you to replace the battery. How do I change my focusing points on my Rebel T6i? Well, they actually gave you a button on the front where by pressing it you can actually change to the particular focusing point selection. You have the manual where now I can actually pick particular points for precise focus. You press it again and now you have this new feature, which is your select zone AF, where you can now pick a particular zone where you want it to look for movement and then focus only in that area. And then you have your 19-point AF, which is auto. This looks for movement within this frame area to get every subject in focus. Very well put together. You've played around with your T6i and you've set a lot of functions that now are making your camera act really funky, and you just don't know how to get it back to the way it was originally. Now, some people think, oh, I'll do a battery pull. Nope, this is not a cell phone or a tablet. That does not function. So what we have to do is activate our menu, and you want to move all the way down to the last little wrench. And notice where it says clear settings. That's the one that you want to activate, and this is going to clear all the camera settings. And if you've also played around with the custom function ones, which are really funky because that way you can change the control features of certain buttons, well, guess what? All you do is hit here. It's going to ask you again to make sure if you want to do it. Hit OK. Done. Now it's back to factory default, as if you just took the camera out of the box. And your second one is to clear all the custom function buttons. Done. How do I choose my aperture and shutter speed on manual mode? Well, they gave you the option of, as we've done before with other Rebels, here's your control dial. As you turn it, you're changing your shutter speed, and then when you press the AV button, you now have control of your aperture, and that way you can do the correct exposure but work on full manual. How to set our external flash to wireless TTL. Very simple. Again, you want the flash on top of your camera. Turn it on. Click your menu button. Scroll down again on your first folder. Always forget that there's a touchscreen. Hit flash control. Scroll down to external flash setting. Click on that and switch over to wireless optical transmission. Now it automatically sets our Altura Photo APS-C 958X to be the slave controller. It is on master mode and the default is channel 1. So now I can switch on my external flash, which happens to be a Canon 430EX Series 3 RT, and I already have this guy set to slave mode. So now, and again, remember, you have to have this set to line of sight. So this little sensor has to be able to view your external flash. So when you fire this one, it fires off your external strobe. So you have to always keep that in mind, unless you're working with two of either the 430EX3 RTs or a 600EX RT, which have the radio transmission. Right now, they're working on easy wireless, but it is an optical system, so they have to be line of sight. The beauty of it is that all these heads have the capability of turning, so you can have this viewing your light, but have it aimed at your subject matter. A lot of us tend to delete our images by just pressing the little delete button right here. That's the little trash can. But the best way to delete everything is to do a format on your card. This is going to guarantee that your memory card works as day one. So we're going to go into the menu and notice how it will be the first little wrench in our tools, and you're going to scroll down to where it says format card. Click on it and you're going to make sure that you hit OK. Now, guarantee this, once you format the card as it states there, all the data will be lost and you will not have access to any more of this information. So once you hit OK, done. Now we have a brand new card which allows us to shoot 2,569, depending again on the setting that you have it set to. But guarantee this is the best way to clean up your card to make it last for years to come. Another question is, what does it mean in my menu where it says to release shutter without card? Well, unfortunately, that is the default setting, and really you have to turn this off. This is to guarantee that your camera will not fire when there is no memory card in here. Many a times I've run across situations where photographers have forgotten to put a card in here and they've had this activated, so they're shooting, and of course the buffer shows in an image and they're not paying attention, but they're really not recording anything. So if you don't want this to occur to you, please remember to go to the first menu icon and scroll down to where it says release shutter without card, and again switch it to disable. That way you guarantee that you're not going to have this happen to you. How to use an external microphone with my Rebel T6i. Well, this is a very popular feature due to the fact that a lot of videographers prefer an external audio source. This way they don't have issues when your camera is automatically focusing. So notice on the side plug here, you're going to have a port that says mic. So I happen to have a VidPro microphone here, one of my favorite. Just mount it on the shoe and plug in the 3.5 port. This is a standard plug. Now you want to make sure you turn on your microphone and you want to go to your video setting. Notice how you have the little video camera. When you do that, this opens up your menu so that you can go into your one of two folders, and I'm going to go into the sound recording folder, and notice how it has a leveler that lets you know with the graphics on the input that is coming into the microphone, and you have auto if you choose the camera to do this for you, or if you're more advanced, you can go into manual and then scroll down and set your recording levels accordingly by using the recording level button. So you can actually move it to maximum and minimum. And once you hit set, it now has it set up for you. Plus you even have a built-in wind filter attenuator. This is awesome because this allows you to cut down on excess noise when you're working in a harsh environment. So all in all, very complete system. But remember, you have to be in this mode and you have to have your external microphone plugged into the 3.5 port. How to set up our Rebel T6i to easy wireless mode. Very simple. We're going to go into our menu and we're going to go down. Again, we're on the first folder for camera settings. Scroll down to flash control. Scroll down to built-in flash settings. And notice how you have custom wireless, normal firing for all around use. Activate easy wireless. Especially since we are beginners in this, we want to work with this one. And here's where you can change your channel. The default is 1, and you can even do exposure compensation. Leave it at 0 for now until you become more comfortable with it. Now you're going to, again, work with the camera on program mode if you choose to have it do your settings for you, and press the flash pop-up button. Notice that your little icon on the right over here shows that you're set to wireless flash. Now we're going to go to our APERTURE Photo APS-C 958, which we already have set to slave mode, and notice that it's on channel 1. Now, this is an optical system, so this has to be facing your built-in strobe. But the beauty of these flashes is that you can turn to, depending on whatever area your subject is, you can turn the head to it. So notice how now I have full wireless capability, and it fires perfectly every time. And again, this could be up to 50 to 60 feet away. It's just that it is optical, so this has to be viewed in the line of sight. Does my Rebel T6i have autofocus during video? Yes, it does. It is one of the nicer features that they've added in the Rebel lineup now, where notice how you can even set it to track. So even if I move the camera or the subject is moving, it maintains the focus. Constantly tracking it, and you can even go into the menu and switch it over to face tracking, and you can go into the different flexi zones, which now allows you to pick particular areas where it's going to focus at all times. So all in all, if you are very much into video recording, this is definitely a nice feature to activate on your new Rebel T6i. Does my T6i have a way to put a date stamp or time stamp on my images? No, unfortunately it does not, but it does have a setting in your menu where you can go down to the last wrench for toolbar, and you can scroll down to copyright information, and that way you can go in here and change however you desire. So if you want to put numbers or a particular date, you can do so and associate it with your images. So that way it could be a nice way to override the feature that it does not have a date stamp on it, but it's a little bit more work, but you can go ahead and put that feature on there as if it was a copyright on your images. Does my new Rebel T6i have built-in image stabilization? No, it does not. Canon has always believed in putting the stabilizer in your optic. They have had better results that way, so you always have to make sure that you have a stabilizer button on your lens, and that means it has image stabilization. And of course, it has to be activated. You'll notice that some lenses have it and other lenses do not. So you have to make a decision on how much image stabilization is needed for your type of photography and imaging, so as you make the investment with the particular lens that has the feature that you need. A lot of lenses have it and a lot of lenses do not. And that also counts for some third-party lenses that are on the market. But always look for the image stabilization button. And of course, it always has to be activated to have the image stabilization feature on your Rebel camera. Can I use a standard tripod on my brand new Rebel T6i? Absolutely. This happens to be one of the smaller, lightweight Manfrottos. This one is very simple to work with. It has a standard 1/4" thread, and notice that that is the standard 1/4" thread on the bottom of your Rebel. Thread it on, place it on there, and lock it in place. Lock it in place. And notice it's going to stay on there, and you can use it for macro work, you can use it for video, however you choose to. There's a lot of us that like to work handheld, but there's still the crowd that prefers working with a little bit stabler source. And of course, you have plenty of different tripods to choose from, and your Rebel T6i will be accommodated by all of them. Does the hot shoe on my new Canon Rebel T6i allow for video light source? Absolutely. Here I happen to have one of the more popular Lumi line from Manfrotto. Notice that you do need a hot shoe plate. It has no connection whatsoever, but it allows you to mount it right onto your shoe. You mount it straight on. And remember, this is not making any kind of contact whatsoever with your camera. This is a separate entity. Power it on, and now you can use it for all videography purposes. And even some photographers prefer to work with a constant light source. That way they don't have to worry about trying to sync to flash. So you can see where your shadows are and your color detail. Plus this one happens to have different power settings. So in any kind of lighting situation, you have full control over your actual light source. I hope you enjoyed our session on the top 25 questions asked about the Canon Rebel T6i. If it answered most of your questions, remember to click the like button underneath, and also subscribe for future sessions that we're going to be doing with other products. And if you have further questions or comments, remember to put them underneath. Happy shooting!